So Trump's threats towards Nigeria, the politics, economics, and the global relations side of things. So imagine this. The President of the United States says he may send in troops or launch airstrikes in Africa's most populous country, because of the mass killings of Christians in the country, and that country is Nigeria. So, what does such a statement mean politically, economically, and for global relations? Let's unpack it because that's what this channel is all about, where we bring the theories in political economics into reality to measure, investigate, and see what is actually happening in the international system. Okay, so hi, I am Dr. Dide Adewale, and welcome to my channel where economics meets international relations. So today we dive into recent remarks by Donald Trump about Nigeria. We're going to explore the political layer and the economic layers, then consider how it affects global power dynamics. Okay, so first of all, what exactly was said? You can find that all over the blogs, news, formations, everywhere. It's everywhere. Screenshots, it's everywhere. But let's look at what actually was said. So, on the 1st November 25, Donald Trump re-added Nigeria to the US list of countries of particular concern. And this was over religious freedom violations. And he warned that if Nigeria didn't stop the killing of Christians, the US would cut all aid and might mount military action. Okay? He also said that the Pentagon is instructed to prepare for possible action, including ground troops, airstrikes, and you can find all the statements and news from Reuters, local newspapers, international news, it's everywhere. So the Nigerian president responded and he rejected the narrative, saying his country is religiously intolerant, emphasizing that Nigerians of all faiths are protected under the constitutions. But what are the political implications of this Trump statement, the reaction from everyone, and the response from the president of Nigeria? And also from all the different interviews from different politicians and news medias all over the world. What is actually the political implication of this? The first one that comes to my mind is sovereignty, because a threat by the US to intervene militarily in Nigeria raises serious questions about national sovereignty, and not just only national sovereignty, but actually international norms. That is the guidelines, the things that guide how countries relate to each other, how actors relate to each other. So it signals a shift from diplomatic pressure for me, to a potential coercive action. So this is just my idea of the first kind of political implication I think this might be. So the second one will be the narrative factor, because Trump's framing is heavily focused on religious persecutions of Christians. But you see, there's so many conflicts in Nigeria. There's so many pockets of violence in Nigeria, kidnappings and all that going on, ethnic rivalries, tribal, is antisocial behaviors, tribal remarks, anti-tribal remarks, all sorts of things lay the undertone that actually constitute to the ongoing insecurity and chaos in Nigeria. An expert argue, that it's far more complex because there's the ethnic involved, there's resources competition involved, and there's this Christian and Muslim narratives as well. So how do you actually describe what the true narrative of what's happening is, knowing that it's a build-up of something small that has gone bigger, or pockets of different issues that has come to be, exposed somehow through this the killing of the Christians. The third implication, political implication, that comes to mind for me is the strategic alignment. So Nigeria is critical in West Africa, politically, regionally, and in security terms. So a US approach framing Nigeria purely through the lens of Christian persecution may reshape how other states view the US intention and also the alliances in Africa. So it is both ways. You're thinking in strategic alignment in international relations, you're wondering, what is the US up to? And the friends of Africa, or the colleagues or the people in partnerships with Africa, they're wondering, okay, how's Africa going to respond? What's going to happen? So it's purely kind of a chaotic implication, because you can't really know what the intention of the US is, and the alliances in Africa will have to actually question what they are actually allying in, in Africa. So the third one will be internal domestic politics, which Nigeria knows how to play across all levels. Across all levels. I think politics is very cultural to Nigeria. But you see, for Nigeria, being threatened with the loss of aid, or foreign intervention may boost the nationalist sentiment. It will complicate reform efforts and polarize internal politics, especially around religion. Sometimes it looks like we're just waiting for an excuse, to do whatever we like. And this kind of thing can give allowance, can give can complicate things more, and can slow down reform efforts, effort being made by the Nigerian government, effort being made by, the people in power, community efforts, even if it's a kind of social regeneration, it could just implicate things that you don't even know, down to religiously, politically, culturally, that kind of thing. So these are like the political implications that I can I can say, as a result of these statements, where you can even find political parties taking advantage of it. To me, I won't say it's volatile. Then I would say it's volatile because you've kind of opened, you've kind of given a platform for good conversations, obviously, but also ingenuine people to take advantage of the chaos. So, economic and the geo-economic consequences. Let's look at that now, and putting the geo-economic together so that we can have a very grounded analysis on the implications of this statement. So if you see, Nigeria is Africa's biggest population, and based on this, it's also like a major oil producer. So based on this conversation that we're having, it's big in Africa. Economically, it is deeply integrated into global energy markets and is a key partner for foreign investments. Do you understand what that means? So when the US says, it has a threat of cutting aid and possibly intervening, this may reduce investors' confidence. Multinational firms could see heightened risk in Nigeria, and this could raise the cost of capital for even Nigerian projects. Also, trade and energy flows might be affected because US companies and multinationals may reconsider their Nigerian operations or hedge against regulatory and security risks, because nobody wants to lose money. Nobody wants to be, at the tail end. Nobody wants to bear the brunt of another person's irresponsibility, or lack of organization, or lack of control of whatever office they're in. So everyone will check, every company will check, every risk analyst, every economics, everyone is checking, okay, how far has this statement affected us economically, and looking at the geo-economic sides of things. However, this could push Nigeria closer toward a non-Western partnerships. For example, countries like China, India, all the Gulf states, who will step in to fill gaps definitely left by this Western, disengagement, and all this, misconstrued conversations that will be going on. And this could actually accelerate economic realignment. That is, if Nigeria knows how to use this efficiently, effectively, and you actually have policymakers on ground looking for the next level on how to take these issues and, reshape Nigeria better, in a different light and a better light, because this could be an opportunity for Nigeria to actually put itself out there for the world to know all the things that you are doing to combat insecurity, to increase economy, advancement, to reduce poverty. So it could be something that Nigerians and the civil servants and everyone in Nigeria could take advantage of. But also, if the US actually intervened militarily, the direct cost would be huge. But even the threat alone can still destabilize markets. It can destabilize currency, your credit ratings, foreign portfolio flows into Nigeria, and even across Africa. Okay, so these are my takes, on the economics and the economic, the geoeconomic space, the implications of the geoeconomic space. So now let's look at the global relations and the power dynamics. The global relations and the power dynamics, you'll be wondering, how will this affect globally? But I don't think anything happens in political economy without the global aspect of things. So this episode to me illustrates the changing nature of global power. Very important. You see, the US is signaling it can use force or coercion in Africa again, which may alarm both traditional and rising powers. So you see, for China and Russia, who are trying to increase their influence in Africa, this may be interpreted as the US reasserting its global role, prompting them to deepen ties with Nigeria and other, African states. You see, so for Nigeria and the global south, this message is mixed. Looking at Nigeria now and the global south, this message is mixed. On one hand, there is the demand for rights and protection, obviously. And on the other hand, there is fear of becoming battlegrounds for superpower rivalry, which the history of economics has always seen from era to era, time to time. Also, it raises, normative questions. When the major power invokes religious protection as a basis for intervention, what precedence does that set? What actually happens? Could more states face similar threats? Are they going to move from Nigeria before you know it to move to other West African countries? Like, what precedence will that set? You get, will more states face similar threats? So how will that shape, global norms around intervention and human rights? A whole lot of things are going to change. A whole lot of dynamics are going to come into play. So for me, in short, Trump's remarks towards Nigeria are about more than religion. That's just my personal reflection. To me, they reflect the nexus of politics, economics, and international relations. And for me, it looks like from challenging sovereignty to altering investment climates to shifting global alliances, the ripple